Hello and welcome to Chapter 3 video tutorial illustrating constructive solid geometry concepts. The first thing you'll have to do is open SolidWorks, and while you're doing that, let's look at the part we'll be making today. Today we'll be making the locator part, which as you can see is a somewhat more complicated part than parts we've made before, and will require the use of multiple different extrusions to create it. So, to begin, we're going to start a new part, which we should know is up in the top left, the new part icon. We're making a part file. And the first thing that we do once we start is check the units. In this case, we will be working in millimeters, which is just mmgs, millimeter gram second. So if we go down to the bottom, we can just simply select that, and we're all set to go. Now, in the book, it lists the steps that you can follow to change the sketch view to a grid view that will snap corners to it. In my experience, this is not helpful generally at all. The snapping to corners just gives you an easy way to approximate how large it is but any of these dimensions and whatnot that you assume based off of the units are not going to be strictly enforced or fully defined unless you define them via dimension. And generally, if you're defining it via dimension, it's not any more difficult to just not have the grid lines in the first place. So I won't be doing that particular portion. So for those of you following along, I will be getting started on page 312. All right. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a sketch. So we go to Sketch Tool and select Sketch. We're going to be working on the top plane. And I'm going to choose this new tool called Corner Rectangle. So I'll click that, and that requires 2 points. And the first click, you can see it positions one corner, and then I click once more, and that's the entire rectangle. Okay, so now that we've got our rectangle, we'll just unselect the rectangle tool, and let's get to dimensioning this rectangle. Now the dimension in the book lists 50 millimeters, so I'll just simply type in 50 and 75 millimeters. Now, just as before, what we can see is we still have a blue sketch. Now that means that it is not defined. So if we just start clicking and dragging, we can see we can move the rectangle around, but we can't alter its size or location, because you see these automatic relations. Those were automatically brought in by the rectangle tool. So just as before, we just simply need to locate it positionally. So if we bring it over to the origin and snap it to the origin, and now it's fully black and fully defined. So now we can get ready to extrude it. So we'll do the extrude boss base. Now, because I had not finished sketching, it automatically inferred that this was the sketch we'd like to use. We would like to go up. So if we switch to an isometric view, and it's going in the correct direction, and we want to go 15 millimeters. And there we have it. For the next feature, we will be doing a cylindrical boss, which is going to start from the bottom plane and go up. So, starting at the bottom plane, we're going to start a sketch, and we are going to be drawing a circle. Now, for this circle is fully defined based on the geometry that already exists. You can see that if I draw a circle and I move it around, I can move it in approximately where it is. But what we want is we want the center of the circle to be on the midpoint. So you see the yellow dot on next to my mouse is a coincident, and as I move it down, it switches, and this is called a midpoint. So that locates the position. Now all we need to do is define the diameter. So additionally, we want the diameter to be such that it comes to this line right up here, tangent to this block. So we can do this via a relation by dragging this, and so you click it. If you click the circle, hold down Control and click this line. This brings you to the properties of both of these two entities, and it gives you this option to add relations. And we want to do a simple tangent relation, which snaps our circle. If you click anywhere in the screen, you lose those property dialog and unselect the entities. And now you can see that we have a black sketch that's fully defined and ready to be made into 3D. Now, if, for instance, we did not want to do it that way, there's other ways to add the simple relations. Namely, if you click up here in this drop down where it says Display Delete Relations, we can see there's an add relation. And then we simply select the entities we would like to relate, and again we can add that tangent. So that's an alternate way of adding said relation. But anyway, we have this fully defined sketch, so we'll exit out of it. You can see it right there. There's our first sketch. And we will now extrude this, clicking the sketch, up 40 millimeters. Okay. Next step is to do the hole, the through hole, starting from this plane down. So we'll start a new sketch here. This circle, we want to be what's called concentric with this outer circle and a specific diameter, which is going to be 30 millimeters. Now the way we can do concentric is if you hover the mouse over this, you can see it selects and it brings up the ability to put a coincident mate. We don't want a coincident mate. We don't want the center of our hole on the edge of the circle. We want the center of our hole on the center of the circle. And if you look in the center of it, there's that little crosshairs. So if I move it, see how that crosshair stays. So if I go towards that crosshair and then click it, now you can see that there's a coincident relation, and I can create this circle. And then I can dimension the radius as needed. And now I've defined the position and the size, and thus the sketch is fully defined. Now I'll turn off the tool and exit the sketch and go to an extruded cut, and I will cut out this hole, making sure that the end condition is through all so that it will go through the entire part. Once that's done, you can see the hole. The next portion of the part is going to be a second hole, which is going to be the round part of the slot. For this, we will actually use a new tool. As opposed to drawing a circle and doing an extruded cut, we're going to use a tool called the Hole Wizard. So if we click the Hole Wizard, we can see over on the left side of the screen there's this hole specification, and then there's these tabs. So the first thing we want to do is we want to locate the position of the hole. So if we click the Positions tab, it's going to ask to select the face where we want to place the hole. We want to place the hole on this face, so it's asking for a plane or face. So we click here, and now we see that our cursor is turned into a little pencil with a point. This is a point tool. This means that when you click, it's going to be putting a sketch point. So if I click right here, you can see, if I zoom in, this is just simply a point. Now, because we have the Hole Wizard tool active, this point is showing this this yellow cylindrical thing. Now, if your yellow cylindrical thing doesn't look the same size as mine, it's probably because the type of hole is a little different. So we have our point, and we don't need to select another point. So if we right click and reselect our select tool, or go up here and uncheck this point tool, the point tool is right up here. So if we need to add more, we can simply turn it on and off. And what we'll do is we'll go to type, and so what you may find is, depending on what hole wizard was used last on your computer, you may have a strange looking hole that may be small, oddly shaped, countersunk. These are all different types of holes that SOLIDWORKS uses. So for now, don't worry about what the yellow looks like. So we're going to go back to positions, and we're going to make sure that the location of the hole is correct. As you can see, every time I click positions, it brings back this point tool, which is somewhat annoying. So we're going to turn that off, and we're going to use the smart dimension. We're going to dimension this. There's two critical dimensions. There's a dimension between the point and this line, which is going to be 30 millimeters. And then there's a dimension between the point, this point, and that line, which is going to be 25 millimeters. And what you can see is now this hole is black and our sketch is fully defined. If we lose this dimension, you can see it is blue and it is underdefined. So putting that dimension back, and now if we try to move this hole, we won't be able to. Okay, so now we still have this hole position open, so we go back to the type and we can make sure that we are choosing the correct type of hole. We would like a hole. As you can see, there's a variety of different kinds. If you hover over it, you can see what type it is. We want a regular hole that is anti-metric, drill sizes, and 20 diameter, and it's because it's anti-metric, it's 20 millimeters. And for our end condition, just like the end condition in the extrude, we would like through all, and then we can have the option of a near side countersink or no near side countersink. We're just going to make sure none of those are selected, and we're going to select OK. And you can see that it created our hole. And if we go into the feature manager, we can see that this actually has our sketch, but it also has this other sketch. The way that it does this other sketch is from the depth information, and it actually does the way it works is a little odd. But in any case, that's not something you generally have to worry about. Generally, all you have to do is place the point, select the type of hole, and it'll work pretty well. And then the last feature that we have to do is we have to make a cut from this side to that hole. So we're going to draw on this face, and I'm going to snap to it just for ease of drawing. And we're going to use the rectangle tool again, and we're going to go from a point up here to a point down here. Now you can see that based on where I clicked, there's a coincident mate, which means that while I can move this and this, I can't move that. Oftentimes, it's useful when you're placing lines and points. If you select these points, you avoid the need to constrain the position of it later. So what we need to do is we need to add the dimensions. As you can see, before we go any further, our sketch is fully defined. So we exit the sketch, go to an isometric view, and we can do an extruded cut. Automatically selected that. Now, what you can see now is we don't want to go through all, and you know we could do a blind hole where we could go in the 30 and halfway, but what we really want to do is we want to cut up to this next face. So if we go into our end conditions, we can simply go up to next, and you can see that it sort of creates this half moon shape, and select OK, and there we have it. Therefore the locator is done, and we can simply save it in whatever folder you have and call it Locator, and that will be all of Chapter 3.